is not America. This is an international twilight zone in Germany or Italy or Austria. It is a storage dump for unwanted populations, surplus and hard to classify, a camp and a temporary haven for displaced persons. But 2 years ago, when these DPs were liberated, they had reason to believe that this aspect of life, as it existed in concentration camps, would be buried in the rubble of a defeated Germany. They, the displaced, were the first enslaved, the first entrapped in the Nazi scheme for a new order. Now, if you had escaped this thing, if you had managed to survive this scientific statecraft, if you had been driven out because of your undying hatred of the conqueror, when peace came, you would expect to share in the victory, to wander no more. Displaced persons, DPs. How callous these abbreviations, how casual. Were you displaced from your children, a vineyard, from a ghetto, from a lover, a bride? Who can say? The road is clogged with people going nowhere. But what is its origin, this road? A map of the fatherland of displacement. Begin with peace in our time. Each little figure represents 100,000 captured slaves, victims of the Third Reich. There were the Germans, political and religious outcasts, the Czechs and Poles, 4 million of them, Scandinavians, Dutch, 2 million, French, 4 million, Russian, and so on. A total of 15 million slaves. But hold on, too many? Kill 7 million. The 8 million who remained, who somehow survived, now could survey the shattered cities of their conquerors, or perhaps migrate to the crumbled wastes they had once called home. They were free. Headlines far away told of their liberation. They were free to go. But where? Free to live off the country. But how? In alien lands, they camped along the roads, starved caricatures of gypsies. The Allied armies and official government organizations rounded them up, herded them toward health and shelter. We saved countless lives, prevented epidemics, and fed the hungry, gave first aid against famine and disease. We collected and classified. We fed and housed and warmed, decontaminated water and DPs alike, counted them all up, and found we had 8 million. What next for the 8 million? Their enslavers defeated, their rescuers victorious and merciful to them. There followed a time when repatriation seemed the logical and final solution. Some nations reached in to reclaim all those living of their lost ones. A nation that had lost 4 million got back 1 million. The others were dead. The former slaves went home in massive blocks, some to dare a new red order, some to try starvation in wasted lands. But 850,000 wouldn't go. These are the hardcore, the immovable ones, the DPs of today. 850,000 who may never ride the truck along repatriation road. These are some of the lucky ones. This Italian family sent back to their village near Cassino. They have a country to go to, a home to return to. These are the lucky ones. This is hardly the gay and joyous homecoming of which these people had dreamed during their years in exile and slavery. But whatever the ruin, it is a place to go to. Others are not even this lucky, for here at least is welcome. Few of the stones are big enough to cement together, but in time this village may be rebuilt. Until then, can the DP camps be emptied wholesale into depopulated zones like this? Can you ask people who have lived so long in a slaughterhouse to move to a cemetery? So look elsewhere, you displaced. For if you journey back to the city block built by your forefathers, can you build it up again in a land still sick with hate? No man is an island entire of itself, wrote John Donne centuries ago. And we fought 2 wars hereabouts to prove it. But afterwards, we forget. As though battlefields can sow themselves with wheat, and roofs can grow on walls, and 150,000 children, orphaned and abandoned, can survive on a diet of liberation alone. You find this hunger hard on the heart, but do not shy. This is one aspect of child life in Europe before we started the job we have yet to finish. These are the more bearable glimpses of some recent history, posing the riddle of Europe's tomorrow. These are the inheritors of her future, the seeds of her destiny. Where there is scavenging, there is at least food. But where there is no food at all, there is rioting in the streets. There are those who do not cry their hunger in the streets. Those who are not angry at anyone. Army and UNRWA doctors have managed blessed therapy in some cases, but all the therapy we can muster will not reach 1/10 of them, nor mend the unmendable. Our bombers spared the Farben industry, headquarters of the German Chemical Trust, which operated its own slave camps. They spared it as a likely site for our own military government. There was no thought of the ironic justice of administering from the very offices of the slave masters the welfare of their victims. Here, too, are headquartered relief units supported by Churches of America. This is a Protestant agency. 1 DP in 10 is of Protestant faith. This office acts for the Jewish Joint Distribution Committee. 2 of every 10 displaced persons are Jews. But the largest group is served by the Catholic agencies, for 7 out of every 10 DPs are Catholic. This is the hardcore, the people who can't go home, who dare not return to countries now tinctured with communism or still foul with fascism. Of all ages and nationalities, great rhetoric deplores their plight in many parliaments, but invitations to them fail to materialize. They look to the United Nations for refuge, but none of the United Nations wants to take the lead in solving the emergency of these people. While nations debate the DP problem, the DPs stand and wait beside the monuments to their dead. Let us now, starting with the Jewish camp, survey the displaced. These are agricultural students, learning on the farm of the late hanged Julius Streicher, an anti-Semitic specialist, to plant the crops of some distant, dreamed-of season, perhaps in Palestine. What of the others, Jews, Catholics, and Protestants? They colonize in all kinds of dwellings, from ruined urban apartment blocks to reconditioned barracks. The DPs always accept responsibility for their quarters and perform whatever chores may keep them ship-shape. But much of their time is spent in waiting, simply waiting. Waiting and hoping for rumors of placement and emigration. Each cubicle here belongs to a family. Many of these quarters have been revised by them in a makeshift fashion, a pitiful striving for civilized privacy. Bachelor quarters are likely to be even more congested. This would be the parlor, bedroom, and club for 17 men with little to do and more time than space to do it in. Despite their cheerful aspect, the residents of this former barracks loathe most such quarters, a clean replica of a concentration camp. Meanwhile, cheer up with some Polish DPs who built their own shelter in a picturesque German woodland in a period of 3 months or so. Hacked it out of a forest, this fine detention camp, with axes they forged themselves. Then, too, they try to keep sharp their crafts and skills, in case the world should ever want them. Skilled workers, more than 7,000 are electrical engineers, radio men, and electricians. Baltic wood carvers practice vanishing arts. Here, desperately trying to keep their talents alive in small DP shops, are a few of the 8,400 welders, metalsmiths, dreaming, perhaps hopelessly, of world markets which their handiwork is not allowed to reach. Estonians, Latvians, Lithuanians, some 150,000 who cannot and will not return to communist-dominated homelands, practicing in a vacuum the handicraft arts for which Germany's shattered economy provides no market. While thousands of hospital wards throughout the world are closed for want of trained personnel, 12,000 qualified in medical arts are denied service to the democratic world. the democratic world for which this physicist gave his birthright. His science dulls like this engineer's. This is an idle custom tailor in a world crying for his needle. Nearby, an architect who designed a cathedral knocks together a hen coop. Of teachers and child care specialists, there are 9,000, and these at least find some outlet for their talents. For there are 150,000 children in this pool of homeless humanity. 50,000 need special care because, you see, they are known in the parlance of the Army and UNRWA as unaccompanied children, stolen children, or lost children whose parents are lost too. That is to say, dead or irrevocably unaccounted for. In many happy instances, UNRWA teams have traced the children and the parents. In such joyous cases, caravans have set out, and a highly satisfying finale of the tale has been such a reunion as this in a station in Czechoslovakia. But the vast majority of the 50,000 unaccompanied children restored to health by UNRWA must be forever homeless, unless. Visit a DP nursery and examine these candidates for citizenship somewhere, someday. Listen to the words of Francis Cardinal Spellman. The blood in the veins of America comes from the wounds of many people. I pray that, loyal to these principles upon which our government was founded, we open our hearts and our doors to these suffering peoples and lead the way for all the United Nations. Or hear the nameless person wondering if displacement stretches out to eternity, if wandering forever and to nowhere is his destiny, and watch with him the endless melancholic cavalcade of the dispossessed. Forbidden to cross any threshold, they are the problem on the doorstep of the world. The displaced persons of Europe, citizens of no place, with a passport to nowhere.